Salut tout le monde! Minasan konnichiwa. Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Natrina and let's get into the video for today. So today we're going to talk about solo traveling to Paris on a budget and some safety tips, because when you're going to Paris alone, those are the top two things that you're probably going to be thinking about: being safe and what's the cheapest way to have fun. All right, so I'm going to start with the tips for traveling on a tight budget. So surprisingly, going to all these famous places in Paris, it actually is for free. For example, seeing the Tour Eiffel, going to Notre Dame, going to Sacré-Cœur, going to Jardin du Luxembourg, all these places, they're for free. So you can, if you're going for, let's say, 2 days, you're not really going to be spending a lot of money going to these places. The things that you're going to be spending on basically are food, transportation, accommodation, and shopping. So those are the main things that you're going to be using your money on. So for the sightseeing, not really necessary to spend a whole lot of money. And also, even if you're going to see the opera at l'Opéra Garnier, or if you're going to go to the Louvre, or even Musée d'Orsay, they're not that expensive. If you're going to be traveling around a lot and you're going to be using a lot of the public transportation, you're going to have to buy the pass, because that's going to be so much easier and I think safer for you, because you would avoid getting pickpocketed or being targeted by a pickpocketer, because a lot of these pickpocketers, they do go for tourists who are in these train stations, on the train, or even when they're buying a ticket. So I think it's best to buy the pass. And you can buy the pass online on the app, but it's very easy. You can either get it beforehand online, or you could just get it at the train station. So all those places you can really go for free. Other places like the Louvre, l'Opéra Garnier, really not that much. And actually, you can find pretty great deals on this Get Your Guide app. I use this app for when I wanted to find like little tours, little events, tickets for these places like the Louvre. I got it for a really good price, because when I got on the website, it was pretty pricey. So I mentioned this before, but food is very expensive, but it is so worth it, because I wanted to go to Paris to try the food, okay? I really splurged my money on that. If you go for lunch, you're going to be spending over 15 euros for sure, unless you find really cheap place, but even so, I'm not sure. Like if you go to a boulangerie, of course, you'll be spending most likely not over 5 euros, depending on what you're getting. If you're on a tight budget, the best thing for you to do is, when you do want to try food out, stick to boulangerie or a cafe. Buy food at the supermarket, because if you buy even takeout at the boulangerie or a cafe, you can take it with you, sit near Tour Eiffel, have that as your background, and you could take pictures, you could just enjoy the scenery. Garbage truck. Why now? Sorry about the noise. So that's like the low budget, but if you're going for 3 days, please at least try 1, 2 max restaurants, because the food is really great. And I'm not just talking about French food. Like in Paris, they're really good at all the cuisines, like internationally. So you have to try different cuisines while you're there. It was all really good, so definitely worth trying. Okay, so here are a few safety tips. All right. Number 1, we must talk about pickpocketers and scammers, because that's probably the most well-known thing about Paris to be aware of. It is true, there are pickpocketers everywhere in Paris, especially the touristic areas, and especially around the train station, in the train stations, on the train, Luckily for me, when I went, I didn't encounter many. I didn't see many, but I was approached by a pickpocketer on my last day. And I didn't know she was a pickpocketer, but I knew she was some kind of scammer. She had to be some kind of scammer because I had heard of this method that these pickpocketers and scammers have used, and she used it on me. I knew I wasn't safe. So when I was actually near the Louvre, I was in between the Louvre and Arc de Carrousel, and there's this little space. Well, not little, it's quite big. There's this big space in between those two areas, and there were a few benches where you could sit down. So literally, I was about to leave Paris. I was going to go back to my hostel to pick up my backpack to leave. So I had to check my bus schedule. So I was on my phone looking at the time schedule. She came up to me with this board. She didn't say anything. She didn't say a word. She just pointed at the board. She tapped on the title. The word deaf was circled, but it was so strange because it was written in English, like it was specifically for tourists. So that actually stood out to me first, more than anything, that it was written in English, because nothing's written in English, firstly, in Paris, you know. And then second of all, she didn't say anything, and then she just tapped on the board, and so she wanted me to sign it. And then my first thought was, I had my phone in my hand. I was like, oh, you know, I put it like right underneath my thigh. My bag was on top, so I knew where everything was. All my valuables were in my pouch, and so it was secure. And then she was very aggressive too. She was just like, sign here, without saying anything. I'm still the polite Japanese that doesn't, you know, like yell back at people. I'm just like, no, sorry. But she tried really hard. She really got in my face. I should have actually just yelled at her to say, go away. Yeah, anyway, after a while, she gave up and then she left. Beware of those scamming methods. Look up what other people talk about. You know, there's so many YouTube videos now that people have, you know, people share their experiences, people share their knowledge about these things. Make sure you do research and just be aware. That's my number one advice, I think. Don't make it obvious, and you don't have to be scared or anything, but don't really let your guard down just because nothing is happening. You know, always be aware and always remember that that can happen to you while you're there. So enjoy. I still love Paris completely. I really love the city, but that can happen. So don't forget about that. So as a solo traveler, especially if you're a woman, you have probably heard this multiple times from many people and from the media. Do not walk alone at night. I have to confess, I did walk alone at night, only because where I stayed at, the Wi-Fi sucked. Because I ended up staying at a hostel. I thought I would be making friends over there, but it wasn't peak season. There weren't that many people, so I didn't really meet anybody. And by the time nighttime came, it was like 5:30. You know, and I had so many things packed in this huge backpack. I didn't have any space to put my book in. So I didn't even have a book to read with me. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I was so bored. So I took a chance. I just prayed and then I left. And then I just walked in the busy streets where there were a lot of people. And I really just avoided those slim, narrow, dark streets, you know, alone. That's my advice. Just stick to busy streets where they're not just busy, but streets where there are people. Okay, not just one person. Don't do that, because you never know if that one person might end up being a little cuckoo. Stick to a street where you can see a lot of people at. If there's no other way getting where you're getting to, and you have to go through one of those streets, go quickly and watch your surroundings. Do not look at your phone, okay? Don't put both earphones on. Music helps me stay calm. So I had one in on kind of low volume, but just one. I left one side open for sure. And then I kept the music a little down. And if you believe in prayer, pray before you leave. Okay, this helped me a lot, I believe. Use a money pouch to put all your valuables in. If it fits in there, put it in, stick it, you know, have it around you, around your waist. Maybe put a sweater on top, or a jacket. At the time, I only had turtlenecks, so I had to put it over my turtleneck and then put my jacket on top. I had to end up taking it off when I got to the Louvre, which I didn't want to happen, but they were so insistent. They're so rude too, because they asked me to unzip my jacket, which I did, but she was like, no, all the way. And then I did it all the way, right? But I didn't like open it. I didn't want to open my jacket and for them to see my pouch and for them to tell me to take it off, because it's, you know, you're not supposed to take that thing off. She got mad when I didn't open my jacket. She was like, no, full, open it. You know, I'm like, geez, calm down. God, I was so angry. Anyway, so I opened it and she's like, okay, take it off. And I was like, damn it. You know, they will ask you to do all that stuff when you get to the Louvre, especially now because of that stupid heist that went down over there. Okay. Use a money pouch. That really helps. As I mentioned before, I decided to stay at a hostel, only because I didn't feel comfortable staying in a hotel alone. It was really great. It worked out for me. I did a lot of research on different hostels, the locations. I chose a really great one. It's called MIJU, and it's in the area of Le Marais, which is one of the safer areas in Paris, and it's a very easy place to get to, and it's convenient because you can get anywhere from there. If you try to look for hotels around that area, it's going to be really expensive, but that hostel, it was great. I really recommend that place. Wi-Fi sucks over there. Once you leave the ground floor is where the ground floor is the first floor. The ground floor is the reception area, and you get your Wi-Fi, password over there. Once you leave that ground floor and you go up to your room, you're not going to have any internet connection anymore with that Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi sucks, okay? And even if you complain to the reception about the Wi-Fi, they'll say, oh, yeah. People will come to fix it tomorrow. They're not going to fix it, okay? So just, if you can, bring a pocket Wi-Fi, but internet connection sucks there, unfortunately. There's no bathroom in the room, so you have to go out. But overall, it was a great stay. It was very convenient. I felt much safer in that area. So that's a good hostel if you're thinking about staying at a hostel in Paris. All right, metro and bus. It's reliable, but things can happen on the train, pickpocketers, and just crazy, weird people, okay? You don't want to get on that train past a certain hour. And if you're traveling around the time that I traveled, it becomes night pretty quickly. So I just stayed away from the metro as soon as it got dark. But especially avoid it past, I would say 9 or 10. They say 10. Instead, I took the bus. But even the bus, I had some problems with the bus because I don't know why. It's such a strange system there. I still don't understand, even though I asked my friend who's from Paris. So once it's past 3 p.m. or something, if you're trying to get to your bus stop, so I was trying to get to the bus stop that was closest to my hostel, and it says, to get on this bus, going towards something, right? And usually that going towards something is the final stop. Sometimes after 3 p.m., get on, and then it only stops midway. And then the driver turns around, he's like, okay, this is the end of the line. And then we're like, huh? The morning is fine. You will get everywhere. But for some reason, past 3 p.m., there are some buses that don't go all the way to where you're supposed to get to. Lastly, I'm going to talk about stations to avoid. I think if you look at other people's maybe YouTube videos, they'll probably tell you exactly which station to avoid, like all of them. I'm just going to mention the ones that I know, the ones that I accidentally went to. So I knew from before to stay away from Gare du Nord and Gare de l'Est, because those stations, they're very big. They're not in a great area at all, okay? Pickpocketers everywhere. It's dirty, filled with weird people, and you just don't feel safe being over there. It was my last day. I didn't have a great last day. It was my last day in Paris, and I left, and then I was going to go to Sacré-Cœur, which I ended up not going to. But I got off at the station that I wrongly looked up from before. I wasn't really feeling well when I got on the train. So I was just like, I need to go to the bathroom. Soon as I got upstairs, I looked around and I was like, okay, I'm not in a good area at all. What I should have done was gone downstairs and gotten on the train to just go back. That's what I should have done. But one, I wasn't feeling well. Two, I was so confused as to where I was. I wasn't supposed to be there. Three, all I was thinking was, okay, leave this area. Just walk, go. So I just walked down where it looked a bit better. So I got to the big station and then I saw the sign, Gare du Nord, and I was like, oh, great. I was supposed to be here. I was supposed to avoid this station. Now I'm here. I still had to use the bathroom. So I was like, okay, where can I use the bathroom? That seems okay enough. That doesn't seem too sketchy. I found a fast food burger joint that's not really that great, but bathroom was surprisingly extremely squeaky clean. It was actually really nice. I was so thankful. Anyway, if possible, avoid Gare du Nord and Gare de l'Est because those areas aren't good. If you can't help but go over there, just be careful around that area. Okay, so those are my top tips for safety and traveling solo on a tight budget. I hope these tips and these stories kind of helped you figure out how you're going to travel to Paris. I'm going to make other videos about Paris, other subjects, so please look forward to those. Thank you guys so much for watching up until now. I hope you enjoyed it and have a great day. Bye.